There it is. All right, everyone, welcome to the show. We're about a minute late, but hey, we're mostly on time with the way we roll this show. And we're going to have a really great show for you today. But before we get started here, let's lay off the stuff that we go. It is time. It's interview 71, and we are achieving flow in WordPress with Steven Puri.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress plugins A to Z, not Z.
Welcome to another episode of WP Plugins A to Z interview show. This episode features Steven Puri, founder and CEO of the Sukha company, who brings a wealth of experience from media technology, film production, to share productivity strategies tailored for the WordPress community. WordPress, the king of content management systems, powering the web with over 80,000 plugins to choose from. How do you sort the junk from the gems? Welcome to WP Plugins A to Z, where we've been keeping the pulse of WordPress alive for over 16 incredible years. Join us every week for an unrehearsed, real talk breakdowns of the latest and greatest plugins, developer and community member interviews. Some weeks, Amber and I team up to dig in. Others, I'm flying solo, unpacking WordPress news, demoing a standout plugin, or sharing tips to power up your site. No scripts, no fluff, just the good stuff from A to Z. So plug in and let's get rolling. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Coming to you direct from the brewery overlook in beautiful southern Vancouver Island. I'm John Overall, and in today's episode 71 of WP Plugins, we are unlocking the secrets to peak productivity with Steven Puri, founder and CEO of the Sukha company, with a career that includes broadcasting, software engineering, and producing visual effects for blockbuster films. Steven now focuses on enhancing productivity for remote workers through his innovative app, the Sukha. In this episode, Steven shares tips and tricks for WordPress developers and designers to achieve flow states, boost productivity, and block distractions. We'll explore how the Sukha app can transform your workflow with features like AI coaches and focus music. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this episode is packed with a productivity wisdom you won't want to miss. Let's get started. Welcome to the show, Steven.
John, thank you. And I hope we have some fun, actionable advice in this episode.
Well, that's what we're shooting for. And as we talked about a little briefly beforehand, this one's a little different than the shows that we normally do for WP Pro A to Z.
A little atypical.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's what we're shooting for. And we're going to be talking a little bit about it. Let's start out with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I had a nice, great intro for you, but can you share your journey from working in film production to the founding of the Sukha company and what inspired you to create a productivity app for remote workers?
I would be happy to tell you that. I'll tell you, the story probably begins with my parents, who were both engineers. Mom was a software engineer, dad was a hardware engineer. So I was a code monkey when I was little. And that's how I fell into film, because film went digital. And I knew how engineering worked. So I got into film, producing digital effects. As you mentioned, I did a bunch of movies in the 90s. I worked on True Lies with Cameron, Braveheart with Mel Gibson, worked with Woody Allen, Jim Jarmusch, David Fincher on Seven, and produced the digital effects for Independence Day, for which we won the Academy Award.
Nice.
That was really fun. Set up a company with the director and producer, Roland Dean, of the movie, because we got along really well. And ended up selling that company. And then after that, I was like, what do I want to do next? And I was like, well, I want to actually make films, the whole film. So I got into that for a few years. As you know, I was a vice president at Fox. So I ran the Die Hard and the Wolverine franchises and a bunch of stuff like that. And then had a moment where I'm like, is this really changing the world in any meaningful way? And I went back to doing a startup. And one of the things I noticed, and this is the most direct answer to your question, John, which is, there were a lot of techniques I'd seen high performers apply in both the film and the tech worlds that allowed remote work to be more productive, allowed people to find their flow states. And I thought, how do I take all of that and put it behind one button? And also, share these lessons for free. Go on podcasts and talk about, how some of these things work, because not a lot of people have had that experience being a senior executive at a couple of motion picture studios, seeing film, and then also, I've started a few tech companies and, run those. So that's kind of how I got here.
That's very cool. Well, with your background in software engineering, what specific techniques can WordPress developers use to enter flow states when coding, plugins, themes, etc.? Especially when dealing with repetitive tasks like debugging or optimizing code for performance.
Yes, an excellent question. Okay, so let me just set the table for 30 seconds, which is, I know some people are out there at home or in the car nodding. They know what a flow state is. To make sure we're all on even footing, flow state is a phenomenon that was named by this Hungarian-American psychologist, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote a book called Flow after he researched high performers. And his thesis was, they have a way of getting into this concentrated state where they do great work, the work that moves their career or the world forward. How do they do it? What are the conditions precedent when they get into this highly performant state? And his book was called Flow because he loved the metaphor of, yes, you can paddle and move yourself forward, but if you're aligned with the river magnifies your efforts. It carries you forward, right? So this concept of flow states, people have heard in many ways. People talk about being in the zone. A lot of developers I work with talk about, when I'm in the zone, when I'm sort of like, doing my thing, I get to that high output state. And it's where you lose track of time. You're not staring at the clock.
Oh yeah, know that one.
You're not distracted. You are doing something where when you look up, you may have forgotten to do those little fidgety things like go to the bathroom, get some water, things like that. But something important is accomplished. And what Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and it's a fantastic book, but he said there's some conditions precedent. Like you have to work on something you think is meaningful. So when you were joking about debugging code, if you think this is meaningful, like, oh my God, this is going to be a great release tomorrow if I get this done, you may very well get into a flow state fixing bugs. If you're fixing bugs from your annoying pair programmer who's an idiot, you may not get into a flow state because you're annoyed through the entire thing thinking, couldn't I partner with someone better, right?
Right.
So one of the things about flow states, you also need a bit of time to get into them. So let's talk, now the table is set. That's what a flow state is. People talk about it in many disciplines, athletes, artists, developers, designers,
Right.
So actionable things to think about. Number one, you need to set aside a block of time. Most research shows it takes 15 to 23 minutes to get into a flow state, to get to that point where the world falls away, you are just cranking on what you need to do and you're not even distracted, right? Now, if you're in a flow state and you get distracted, it takes you the same amount of time to get back there. So the number one thing to do is you need to set yourself a box and say, within this box, this is sacred. Now, I'll tell you, in my company, we have 9 to 11 every morning, Central Time, where we don't set meetings with each other. We don't Slack each other. That's the time where you can go deep and hopefully at the end of that go, I actually did something meaningful. Let me share that, right?
Right.
It's very different than the, hey man, I emptied my inbox. I'm at inbox 0. I got back to all my Slacks. I did whatever. Like, there's shallow work, as Cal Newport would call it, but there's that deep work. So that's something to keep in mind, is you have to respect that block of time and keep it sacred, right? It may change every day. Now, a second thing to keep in mind is, what is your chronotype? And this is the second term I'm going to throw out there, which is,
this is something new. What is a chronotype?
Yeah, well, I'm glad I could share something new, John. So chronotype means you, as you become more sensitive to how you work, may and hopefully will recognize what kinds of things you do best at certain times of day. I'll give you an example from the world of film. It's a famous screenwriter, Ron Bass. He has written scripts that have gotten Julia Roberts, Tom Cruise, Dustin Hoffman to play his roles, right?
Right.
He writes amazing characters. He was an attorney who decided to become a screenwriter. And he realized his chronotype was such that in the morning, he told his family, I can't talk to you. I'm not the dad who's going to be like, hey, who wants flapjacks for breakfast? And who did their homework? He's like, don't talk to me. I won't talk to you. Because he said, for me to write this dialogue, I can't hear my characters in my head if I'm talking to you. As soon as I've started engaging with his wife, just say good morning. Like, I can't hear those. And he was obviously so good at writing dialogue that these huge A-list actors would be like, I want to say those words on screen. You know, I'll take that movie in the spring. So that notion of that, and I'll tell you, in SF, where I was working for a while, more than anywhere else, and I was never a banker in New York, there's also a culture around that, but there was a hustle culture sort of mentality of, oh my God, if you're not coding at 3 a.m. and microdosing psilocybin or LSD or something, like, are you really a developer? You know, are you really a software engineer sort of thing, right?
Seen that part of the industry once.
Yeah, I think we both have. And for some, that is a badge of honor. There are some people who want to tell their boss, Elon Musk, I'm sleeping under my desk. I'm taking photos and posting them to Twitter of me sleeping under the desk, and this is how dedicated. Okay, whatever, right? Good for you. I would like to believe that we're moving into a world where work is measured by the effect of what you do, not when you do it or where you do it.
Right.
And when you lock onto that, you say, okay, you know what? Maybe my golden time for coding is this period of time, whereas in this other period of time, I may be more distracted. So maybe that's when I should, you know, update Linear or Jira Asana, or do, you know, lightweight stuff, return emails, write up some specs. But that time when I go deep, maybe it may be 10 o'clock at night. That may be true for you, but don't assume that just because the culture around you tells you this is how hustle culture works, right? I realized for me, it is early in the morning, and I've never thought of myself as a morning person. You and I have talked about caffeine and coffee and stuff like that.
Right.
I never thought about that until I realized the clarity of my thought between about 6 a.m. and 9, 10 a.m. is measurably different than the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So that's why you and I were talking in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I would never book this in the morning.
Yeah. Well, my mornings, part of the reason why my show doesn't start till this late is my mornings are when I do the vast majority of all my work. The rest of the day, I do all the miscellaneous thing, like work on inbox empty.
Yeah. Shallow work.
You know, the stuff that doesn't require, well, it took me a long time to learn that because I was never a morning person. I used to, previous to kids, my working hours was 1 a.m. till 6 a.m.
See?
That was when I worked absolute best. And then when I had kids, I had to change my life around, and it took a few years to readjust.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question real quick here. As far as chronotype goes, how does someone work to discover that? Or they just pay attention to their schedule, or what do they do?
You know, the truism is true, which is when you measure something, you can then optimize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you use any sort of task management or timer, like obviously in the platform I built, we give you that ability to say, time box yourself, go, you know what, this ticket should take me 75 minutes or 90 minutes. You can see your progress on screen. You can also look historically and be like, how well am I estimating the time it takes me to do things? You can use it on paper. Like this is not something you even need an app for. But if you do this for a week or two and see your patterns of like, wow, in the mornings, I seem to be very good when I'm doing this, like what you just said.
So what they could do is use the Sukha app to figure out their pattern over the course of several weeks to a couple of months, depending on.
But I don't want to just shill my app. Like I made one of which I'm very proud.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, you could do this with a piece of paper and a pencil.
True.
And just for a week or two, log what you do, write down how long you think you're going to take. I think doing this ticket or inbox zero or whatever it is, designing this thing in Figma should take me 45 minutes.
Right.
Write down at the end how long it took you, see the patterns, learn.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the Sukha app here. In that, one, we made a brief mention in the intro where we talked about it provides music and other things to help you. How does this, you mentioned the flow state, how does the app help someone to get into their flow state? What sort of things does it do to them, for them?
I'll give you a very concrete example. And you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? For me, it was pain is the mother of invention. And for me, that pain was the 6 o'clock where I tell myself, oh God, I didn't get through stuff today. God, I suck. How does this happen again? I'll get up early tomorrow. And then before I start tomorrow's work, I'll finish today's work. And you tell yourself that lie And then it's just dominoes. Tuesday night you don't finish, then Wednesday's morning. You know what I mean? Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, I still do that occasionally. Out of
it's
foolishness,
a thing, right? So you get to a point, and I know that I'm going to have a child this fall. You're way ahead of me. You know how the rhythm is going to work, but I have been very conscious of, okay, you know what? If I want to have afternoons where I'm like, I'm crushing this, it starts in the morning. And what I realized was this, and this is that thing, the 6 whys, the peeling back the onion.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I would tell myself, okay, John, tomorrow morning at 9, I got to dive in. I got to fix this bug in the website, whatever, blah, blah.
Right.
And at 9:15 tomorrow morning, I would be returning low priority emails in my inbox, or be scrolling quickly the news just to make sure I'm up on anything going on, right?
Yeah.
And I said to myself, why am I doing this? Because I'm procrastinating. Okay. Why are you procrastinating? Because I'm overwhelmed. Why are you overwhelmed? And it came down to one of two things for me. It was the size of my task list, where I would look at it and it was so daunting. It was almost paralyzing. Like, there are 17 things. I'm not going to get them all done before my podcast with John at lunch, right?
Right.
Or there was something on there that was so overwhelming because it was so large. I'm not going to rewrite the marketing site right now before my lunch.
Right.
And it almost felt like, how could I even make a dent in this? Why start? So what I did in this specific way was work with Tony, a friend of mine. We're doing this together, and said, okay, you know what if we had a smart assistant, like an LLM, in a nice wrapper inside the app, that every morning would look at what I had to do, identify the 3 priorities with me. And then as soon as I hit play, to start the music and put my computer in D&D and all that, it would hide the other 14. And it helped my ADD brain to not want to multitask and jump around and not be daunted by the size of my list. I would see 3 things and I'd be like, oh, I can get those 3 done in 2 hours. Done. Yeah. And it helped tremendously. And I noticed in our app, again, measure things.
Yeah.
When we did that, 77% of our members complete 3 tasks, as opposed to before, when they could see their whole list, they would complete less than 3. So I think that's been a really helpful thing for people in the community. And it sounds really simple, right? But sometimes these little tricks you do with your brain, where your brain just goes, oh, okay, this feels good. Okay, yeah, you got me.
Okay, so one of the things that the Sukha app can do is people can create their big 17 long task list, set their time. Like, my focus time is 9 a.m. start, and as soon as they hit that 9 a.m., that 17 drops to 3. It's almost like they've completed 14 items suddenly.
Yes. That's exactly
right. And then they can
even
look at those and say, this is what I'm going to focus on now. Okay.
Yes, we have a little card. The whole, when you open the website, you'll see some cards. There's like a group chat card. There's your smart assistant card. There's a music card. You can choose flow music, like you said. And there's a task card, which shows you 3 things. You can finish those 3. Right. You can also set it that when you finish those 3, it will automatically pull for you the top task from the rest of your list. If you're like, I'm going to get through more than 3 today, but I only want to see 3 at a time. So it does that just to help, ease the stress on your brain. So the thing that I personally find very interesting is, as we were building this, there are a number of times when you were weighing, do I build this next feature? Am I right? Am I wrong? And we happen to have a really warm, friendly community. The biggest cohorts of members we have are developers, right, designers, and writers. Why? Because all of them work from home. They're knowledge workers, and they have hours of work to do.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. It's like, how does the app help people with developers and others that are, in particular WordPress? The vast majority of WordPress workers are remote workers or solopreneurs, or, they might work for an agency, but the agency might be located in New York and they might work from South America, for example.
Completely right. And are there a lot of distractions when you work at home?
Oh God, yeah. I've got 4 monitors here in front of me right now, plus a laptop, plus another computer, and a dog who wanders in from time to time to say, hey, you got to get up from the computer and take me for a walk. So it's like, the distractions are everywhere.
And let's not forget, there's always the fridge, which is calling like, oh, come get a little snack. And there's like, oh, you can put the laundry in and get the laundry done while you're working. And there's a million things, right?
A million things you can do. Yeah.
this is something that I learned. Here's the thing that people don't get, because not a lot of people have done film and tech.
Mm-hmm.
In film, for 100 years, they have already figured out how to do remote and hybrid, as well as like RTO, or in-office, in-person, synchronous, whatever you want to call it, right? Because every film starts out remote. It's writers writing in their homes, writing in their writing partner's living room, going to coffee shops and working remotely. At some point, God willing, you get some traction on one of your projects.
Yeah.
You get a little money, you set up a production office.
Right.
2 days a week, you're in the production office meeting with, location scouts, costumers, production designers. Let us hope that moves forward. Suddenly you're in production, and it is RTO. It's all day, all night, 4 to 6 months. You're living there.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to hybrid, and then it goes back to remote. In each of those eras, individual contributors know how to contribute in that particular era.
Right.
And leaders know how to lead. And the funny thing is, because it's been done so long, it predates the words that we use. Like if you said to someone in film, "Oh, you're in the remote phase of your movie," they'd be like, "John, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, okay.
Right. It'd be like, "Oh, you're in development. Oh, you're in prep. Oh, you're in pre-production." Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different terminology for the same
stuff. It's a whole different terminology. The exact same thing. The exact same thing. Yeah. Right. And it's like, how do you do each of these things in a way that's healthy? Because I'll tell you, the name of my company is, because you've heard me speak before.
The Sukha company. It's I can't remember the precise term of it, but yeah, go ahead.
But it's Sukha is a term I heard a lot in yoga. My wife has heard in yoga, which is about like the self-fulfillment, the happiness you feel when you're in your lane, doing the thing you're good at. You can do it with ease. It is an easeful sort of like command of what you're doing.
Right.
So that is ultimately what Tony and I want to, enable people to say, you know what, I'd really like to have 3 p.m.s where I look up and I'm playing with my kids, as opposed to 6 p.m.s and I'm like, God, I suck. I'll get up early tomorrow and try and finish this.
Well, yeah, that's what I've striven for in the last several years, is to make sure I was there for my young boys.
I'm with you. So
as they're heading into manhood now.
Yeah, you have teenagers. I'm about to have a baby.
Yeah, well, I have teenagers and a grown daughter. So yeah.
Yeah. So you know a lot about this. But in terms of distractions, I appreciate where you're coming from, which is hopefully people listening to this are saying like, yes, I do want to find a way to be more in control of my life. I do have technical work to do as well as creative work to do. And if I can get into a flow state, get into the zone, and that allows me to be more in command, what a great outcome. And that is really what I'm focused on. That's why I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh yeah, I appreciate having you. I appreciate expanding out what WP plugins A to Z can do. Another question here for you, Steven. AI, as everyone knows, in the last 8 months has absolutely exploded on everything. How is Sukha handling AI and its massive number of distractions that it's bringing to the party? Because it's got a lot of distractions. Fortunately, I use it for helping me code, but that's all I'm using it for. I don't do tons of research and other things with it, but it helps me with all the other things I do. But I know a few people that they're using AI in ways that I never even thought was possible.
I'm with you, and I will tell you this because it is a question I get frequently. And the best answer I can give you is an analogy, which is if we were to say to Usain Bolt, hey man, with AI, we made this robot, it runs faster than you. So why don't you sit here? We'll let it run. It's going to win. That would suck for Usain. That would suck for the spectators, right?
Right.
But if you went to him and said, hey, with AI, we actually looked at your bone structure in your feet, and we think this shoe fits you just like 5% better. You might shave half a second off your time. Would that interest you? That would be thrilling for him and thrilling for the spectators.
Right.
So that thing of, hey, with a longer lever, how much more could you lift? Could you lift the earth, right? That I think is a very interesting application of AI. I know that, yes, there are jobs that will be displaced by LLMs in particular, but what we offer, when you ask me, like, how do we apply that in Sukha? The Smart Assistant is an LLM. It is an LLM that is tuned for very specific things, and we improve it like every day. As you know, these things, they're evolving. Like after you and I speak, Tony and I will spend an hour or two working on how to make this better, because we want to offer things like this your LLM, your smart assistant, doesn't just say, hey, John, I looked at your task list. I think these are the 3 things you need to focus on. You agree? Let's give me each half an hour and get going, right? That's helpful, time boxing and organizing it.
That's helpful, yeah.
But I want the smart assistant to say, hey, John, you know what? I looked at your schedule tomorrow, and I see that you have a block of 2 hours here. And that's usually a great time when you're coding. Can I make a calendar event and just block that out so no one books anything in there? And by the way, I also noticed at that daytime, you work best to this playlist. So how about I throw on like Sonic Caffeine or Ambient Atmosphere or one of the playlists? I'll throw that on for you tomorrow at 2, and or in your case in the morning.
Right. And
let me create a beautiful experience for you so that the only thing you have to focus on is how are you making that beautiful plugin, not hooking up your Spotify and not doing this and not blocking your calendar. I want that. That's where I want AI to go. I want AI to say, hey man, I just put your Slack in do not disturb.
Yep.
Because I want to give you this time.
Okay. So the Sukha app, let's talk a little bit about its actual functionality, because I haven't personally downloaded it yet. It is something I'm going to look into.
It's a website, no download.
Oh, there's no download. It runs purely from the website. So
the website that you pulled up, sukha.co.
Yeah.
You can claim your free trial, enter your email address, 7-day free trial, no credit card. You can be using it in 10 seconds.
Okay. And so what you just mentioned, like putting your Slack, for those that use Slack, I don't, but put it into no disturb. How does it do that? You connect up Slack to it. So you connect up the different things. Another question I've got here, the music it chooses, where does it have its own music sources, or do you provide music sources for it?
Yes. So I happen from my ye olde film days to have a lot of friends who are film composers. There's a bunch of research on flow music, on focus music.
Okay.
Generally, the research points to 60 to 90 beats per minute, certain key signatures, non-vocal ambient rhythmic music.
Right.
A bunch of friends have time on their hands, have written me over 1,000 hours of original music to those specs. Now, some people in the community have said, oh, I love lo-fi. Okay, so we created 3 channels, 3 playlists that are exclusively lo-fi. One more little up-tempo, one more down-tempo.
Okay.
Put that. Do you ever listen to binaural beats? I notice you have nice cans on. Do you listen to binaural?
I don't know the terms. I should know it from my days in college where I took applied communications and learned radio, television, newspaper, and all of that stuff at the time, but I don't remember all those specifics.
Let's talk about it. Okay. So, and again, for those playing at home, binaural is a relatively new concept. It's become more popular, which is if you were to feed slightly different channels into your left and right ear, where it's offset by a certain number of cycles per second, certain number of hertz, there are some early studies that show that it stimulates the brain in an interesting way, because the brain now has to reconcile sound that's maybe like 40 cycles or 36, 42 cycles different than what it expects to be hearing. So some people believe that there are different kinds of brain waves that are stimulated by listening to binaural, gamma, delta, depending on the hertz, right? I actually wrote a long blog post about this. So we had people in the community that were passionate about binaural. They're like, oh, I love this, but I wish you had binaural. So great, did some research, spoke to some composer friends, said, hey, would love for you to create some tracks where there's this slight offset. And we launched those. Some people swear by them. I personally have tried it, and I believe it helps me, but I also don't know if it's the placebo effect of I believe I should feel something. So I can't tell you personally, but if binaural is your jam and you're listening to this, yes, we support binaural, and we'll probably launch more playlists with it because it's been pretty popular. I'll also mention this. We had a number of people say they missed coffee shops.
The background ambient noise of them.
Yeah, the walla, what are you going to call it?
The white noise.
Of coffee shops. So we found a recording of a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria. It was like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to a coffee shop, you can literally just choose, Cafe Vienna.
Yeah. So some people do need white noise versus music. It's like me, it varies. Depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes it's white noise, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's absolute silence.
We not only have white noise, we have pink noise and brown noise, which I learned how those are subtly different.
Pink noise and brown noise, those are two terms
Yes,
I hadn't heard either.
Here's the thing is, so in obviously the range of frequencies,
Mm-hmm.
our ears are more attuned to certain frequencies than others, right?
Right.
The way some people can start to lose the bass or lose the treble or that sort of thing. So pink noise and brown noise are where there's equalization applied to white noise to boost or attenuate certain frequencies to sort of balance it differently. And it can sound, I know this is going to sound weird, but it can sound warmer or cooler depending on how you do that, even though it is white noise that's just been equalized. So again, some people love that. We have a great community. When they ask for something, I usually jump to it and be like, oh, sure, let's see how we can figure that out. So that's something that we launched. It was like, we call it Pink Dawn and Brown Earth.
Very cool. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, we touched on it once or twice here, the ADHD brains and the bouncing, which it turns out there's a vast number of programmers, developers, and whatnot that seem to have ADHD brain. It's almost like a prerequisite sometimes.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. But your app, the Sukha app, how does it help provide friendly flow techniques so that those with those challenges can get moving forward?
Well, having been medically diagnosed with ADHD, because one of the members of the Sukha, who's an ADHD coach, we become friends, and she turned to me 2 years ago and said, I think you should go like have a test done, because I think you don't know it, but you are. And that's probably why you created a flow state app, right?
Yeah.
She was right. I know the doctor did all the tests. He's like, yes, you have ADD, not so much the hyperactive presentation.
Well, you lost the hyperactivity as you aged.
Exactly, right? Yeah, probably, right? And so I say this because that led me to, because you want to learn. I want to say, okay, tell me more about me. Mm-hmm. And the idea that we can monotask is true.
Yeah.
The idea we can multitask is not true.
No.
But we believe it.
I learned that one a few years ago. I had that belief I could multitask. And finally I went, nope, focus on one item at a time and I get way more done.
And for those listening, there's a really good, Cal's written about it, Nir Eyal's written great blog post about this, saying like, it's really just monotasking, where in between monotasking, you burn brain energy context switching, saying, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. Let me store what I was thinking about this. Let me load into local memory, like what I'm about to do, go work on that for a while and switch back and forth. So, it's almost like RAM swapping, where you're like, this is expensive to keep doing this, right?
Right.
So that said, since we clearly both know what that is, one of the things that Tony and I wanted to do with Sukha is say, hey, you know what? Let's show you your active task. So when you begin, here's the thing you should be working on. There's a little colored progress bar on it. Mm-hmm. If you finish that task before you touch something else, you get more points. There's a system where you can see, am I getting better day over day, week over week, and you get points for not picking up your phone while you're working. You can lock your phone. That was a big one for me, is when I hit something that's hard, my dopamine craving brain picks up my phone. Right. Even if I'm sitting here at my desk, it's like, well, I'll just scroll for a minute while I think on, I don't know how to fix this bug in, our React app. So that was something we thought, okay, so let's help you see how you're doing and score. And one of the things we want to do is say, not just we'll hide the rest of your task lists. You're not, so tempted to try and multitask. But even among the three things you can see, if you finish the first one, you'll be rewarded for that.
Nice.
And there are little things like that. And I know it's silly, but like, for example, Duolingo is how my wife is learning another language. And I watch her with it, and my hat is kind of off to them. You can mock it all you want, but man, she sticks with it. And I'm like, great. So it's gamification for good, which obviously there are some very, very, very smart people working at the social media companies. And I would say it's gamification for evil.
No, well, gamification works. That's why we do it now.
It works.
It works all over the place for just about everything. Now, there is something else you made mention of briefly when we didn't quite touch on enough. It's the time blocking and the rewards for it. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about what that means?
Okay, so let's start with the principle that you bring up, and thank you for teeing this up.
Mm-hmm.
This concept around time blocking, some people embrace it and say, you know what? It's magical the way if I tell myself I have 30 minutes to do something, I will get it done in 30 minutes. Other people are like, oh, I don't work that way. But I procrastinate in this. Let me point this out. If your example of how you don't time box is you procrastinate and like, I would finish all of my term papers the night before I had to turn them in college, whatever it is, right? Let me simply reframe that for you, which is, yeah, you do time box. You just back the time box up against the absolute deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So you time box yourself, I'll get it all done in the 24 hours before I have to turn the paper in.
Right.
So when you actually think that way and you go, oh, so time boxing did work. I did turn in my term papers, but I just did them in a way that was incredibly stressful, filled with Red Bull and, unhappiness.
And then crash and burn.
Yeah, exactly. What if I were to take that and say, oh, time boxing works, I get it done. What if I were to time box that differently and say, why don't I get it done maybe a week earlier so you have the ability to maybe sleep or read it once over before you turn it in, things like that. And the same thing applies here. It is it's an established principle that if you tell yourself this is how long you have to do something, you generally get it done that time. So the way in which we reinforce that is when you're working your little task, you have a little task cell, like a lot of task apps, right? And by the way, you can integrate, your linear, your task, your Todoist. If you want to pull tasks from some other task manager, you can do it easily in our platform. But as you work, the background of your little task cell is your progress bar, and it's green until you get to 100%. If you're 10% over, it's yellow, just like a traffic light. Mm-hmm. And if you're more than 10% over, the whole bar goes red, like just like a traffic light to go, hey man, what's going wrong? Like, did you pick up your phone? Are you playing with your dog? What are you doing? So we offer a lot of techniques like that around time boxing to say, how can we reinforce with you? And of course, your smart assistant tells you stuff like, you should be halfway done. You have an hour-long task. You're 30 minutes in. Check in with yourself. You're halfway done. You have 5 minutes left. It's there to give you little cues like that.
Okay. Well, we have a question here that's been proposed off of the chat one for you.
Cool.
Do you have a function in your app where you can put your team in a group and find where each member's non-focus times cross over so a member can be scheduled that time works for most of them? Wow. I hope that made sense because
it did make sense. It did make sense. That's actually a really interesting thing that Tony and I have talked about. We are a 2-person little team building this, and that sort of sophisticated scheduling, which is done very well by some other scheduling apps. We haven't tackled that because my point of view is we should focus our energies right now on what we do better than everyone. And what that is get people into a flow state. And if there is a task manager that is fantastic, let's integrate with them so people can pull their tasks in, as opposed to try to out task manage Asana, right? Or Jira, right? Which are huge. So in this regard, no, we haven't built that. I've thought about it.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to find the best example of how to do that, of which there are many. I'm very proud of the fact that the people who sign up and pay to be part of our community, we have a 96% month-over-month paid retention. Like the people who get into a flow state with us, they recognize this is a key part of them having 3 PMs where they're like, I feel great, and not having 6 PMs where it's like, I suck.
Yeah.
I didn't get it done.
Well, yeah, it's way better if you're hitting that afternoon and you feel like you've accomplished something versus you feel like you sat there picking through your inbox for hours.
That's how I named my company. I don't know if you've heard that anywhere I've spoken, but I named my company because I met Laura doing yoga. For our honeymoon, we went to Bali to go do yoga and hang out. Yeah. And I said to her, maybe on this trip, I'll find a name for this thing that I'm working on because we had a working title for it. So the first day I said, I want to talk to 3 of our members. I'll see if anyone has 10 minutes to talk to me. I just want to begin by sort of getting some feedback from people outside my head.
Right.
So I asked 3 people for 10 minutes. And they were great. Hey, what's your favorite feature? I love the smart assistant. I love the tasks. I love the timers, the thing. The third guy, we were going to the wrap up. We were like, John, thank you so much for your time. It's 8 minutes in. I'm going to let you go. Like, have a great day. And he said, Steven, you asked the wrong questions.
Yeah.
He said, well, what was the right question? He said, you should ask me why I pay you. And I said, it's 30 cents a day. I didn't think, this is not like a Birkin bag, every month, But okay, why do you pay me? And he said, I realize that I have two kinds of days. I have 3 o'clock where I'm playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 6 o'clocks where I'm frustrated, where I haven't got my work done. And he said, the difference is, did I open your website and hit play in the morning? And I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever.
Nope, they're not.
Yeah. And I was like,
before you know it, they're 16 and 18.
Yeah, I know. Yours are, I know. But just that sense from him of being not aware of time is no matter how wealthy you become, time you cannot buy.
You cannot get it back. You are granted 86,400 seconds in every single day. How are you going to use those?
Thank you, Dr. Overall.
Well, no, it's because you do a lot of things. Computers only know seconds. They don't know minutes, hours. They only know seconds. Well, they know milliseconds, but as general, when you're plugging it in, it's all about seconds. But you've got 86,400 seconds in a 24-hour day.
I love you for that.
You use part of those sleeping. We can't avoid that, no matter how hard we try. And then you use the other parts doing the other things you need, eating and doing other things. And then you have that part where you got to get your work done to help provide for the other parts of your day.
There it is.
So if you
let us find those ways to manage it and find happiness.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Steven. This is a point where you get to tell everyone, this is for the downloads, because we're going to move to just a YouTube little bit for everyone. But you tell everyone here how they can find you and how they can reach out to you, or how they can go test out your site.
Okay, I will tell you 2 things. Everyone listening, I appreciate that you're here at this moment. If there's anything I've mentioned that you'd like to know more about, if you're like, oh, who is this Cal Newport guy, or what's that blog post by Near that you mentioned, you are welcome to email me. It doesn't have to be about anything that I'm working on. If you're curious and I have some information, it's wonderful to share. My email address is steven@thesukha, TheSukha.co. You will not get back a long email from me with the history of my life, but I will say, oh, here's a link to the blog post, or here's a link to Mihai's book. So you're welcome to do that. Anyone who is looking to experiment with flow states, please, there's a 7-day free trial, no credit card, no BS. Try it. You need to approach it with something you need to do. Like if you turn it on and turn it off in 10 seconds, you will not understand your flow state. You need to say, hey, you know what? I have a thing I want to build. I have an hour or 2. Try it out and jump in the group chat and say hi. I'm in there every day. I'd be thrilled to talk to you and help however I can. Tony and I don't collect paychecks. We do this for free because we just think it's a good service. It helps us and it helps others.
Excellent. All right. So those of you listening in the downloads for the podcast, this is where we're going to cut off. We'll have more over on the YouTube channel. So if you want more, pop over to YouTube channel, fast forward so you can catch the end of the show. Don't run away, Steven. I'm going to play the extra and we'll be right back after this.
Okay, now.
Reminders for the show. All the show notes can be found at wpplugins.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A to Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by you, the developers, because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to wppluginsaToZ.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show through your favorite podcast app. You can also watch the show live on YouTube at WP Plugins A to Z, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. You can also follow the show on X at WP Plugins A to Z. John can be reached directly through the website wpproatoz.com or email him at john@wppro.ca. Amber can also be contacted through the website at wpproatoz.com or email her directly, amber@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
There we go. All right. We are back here for the YouTube fun. That little laugh at the end is my 18-year-old boy preserved at 3 years old. You still there?
I am, although for some reason my the screen just went black. I can hear you, but I can't see you. I don't know what's up with Teams.
That's a weird one. Hang on a sec. Let me go pop into my.
But I can hear you perfectly. I just don't know where you went.
Where's my Teams at? Hiding behind all these windows here.
Oh, there you are.
There it
Did
is.
you just click something or did I click something?
You're back. I opened up the Teams window.
Oh, yeah, you're back.
No
in
problem.
Color.
Yeah, I was just commenting that little laugh you hear at the end of my show as my 18-year-old son preserved at 3.
I love that.
Well, it's
I'm
funny.
sure he does too.
Well, what's funny is that was just before my first episode. I just decided on what my show was going to be. I was testing all my equipment, and I set up my microphone. I'd hit record to record my voice. He came toddling over, grabbed the microphone, and did that.
I love that you've been doing this show that long, and now he's like a young adult.
Mm-hmm. So at any rate, we've gotten into all kinds of miscellaneous discussions here. I have no direction here for this. This is just some added stuff I'm working on towards the end to try and pull people over to the YouTube channel to chat and see what's happening throughout. And I can scroll back through the comments that were made and see if there's any other questions or comments people made. And I think the best one here came from Influence WP. It's because I was showing on the screen the video from your website. He was like, I should be lying on the sofa with a candle burning for this one. Zen. Because it is kind of mesmerizing your website with the video of the wave crashing. All you need now is music to play with it in the background.
You know what? I appreciate you seeing that. Definitely looking at every other app that tries to help you focus, where they pretty much have the same white background with some cartoon characters and telling you all their features. I was like, you know what? I think our audience is mature enough that we're not going to talk down and say like, we have the best features. We have the best this. It's more, you know what? Try it for free. You decide. Well,
the interesting thing is 7 days, if someone sat down and said, okay, well, this next week, I will use this for a week and see, within 7 days, they will be able to, if they use it daily for 7 days, I feel you will be able to figure out whether it's going to benefit you or not in that 7 days.
I completely agree. Yes. I think you'll know in 3, actually. I just did 7 to be generous.
Well, we'll find out because probably next week I'll sit down and give this an actual test. And then who knows, it may end up on the other show as something I talk about.
John, when you drop in, say hi in the group chat. I'll be in there. It'd be so nice to see a happy face.
I will do that and give it a good shot. I might even push this towards my marketing manager and see if I can get her to do some work there. So
that'd be amazing.
So it looks quite good. It might even be useful for my daughter who suffers more ADHD than me.
You know what? I have a lot of parent friends who have said the same thing.
So, and my daughter's the one who does all my design work and other stuff for the business now.
And she's your co-host, right?
Yeah, she's my co-host. She's the co-host on the other show, the WP Plugins A to Z show, where we review plugins and talk about this and that and news and all the other things that impact the WordPress community. So I do see this as something that the WordPress community and remote workers can make a big benefit to, especially if they're suffering from the ability, like happens from time to time with me. It's like I need to get focused and I can't get my day focused. Whatever is happening. With the days I actually have things organized and I sit down and do the stuff I need to do are the ones that I accomplish so much in.
Yes. I want to make that available to people. And I don't know that you and I have talked about this, but I thought a lot this past winter, over the holiday, about I'm going to have a son this year.
Yeah.
And what will he look at that I've done that he says, oh, that's my dad did? And I'll be super blunt.
Yeah.
Die Hard 5, The Wolverine, some of these, even Star Trek 11, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
They don't really make the world a better place. They hopefully distract you and they tell you a story about life and about people, you know? And a lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing is I thought, how could I make the world maybe 1% better that I'm going to hand off to him? And this is what I thought. If more people could get in their flow state, do the thing of which they're capable, that would be good. I have a strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of life is, will you get it out or not?
That is a big question, whether you will get it out or not.
Yeah. And there are enough really smart developers and designers and behavioral psychologists that are paid by companies to steal your life. That's hard to fight.
They do a very good job of that, unfortunately. They grab attention and they keep it over other things that need to be accomplished. And people are susceptible to that, unfortunately. It is one of those things that just happens along life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, I was going somewhere and then my brain went pop.
Did you get distracted, John?
Not exactly got distracted. It's like I had a line of thought and it didn't quite come together as a cohesive sentence.
I'll be here whenever. Just call me.
Yeah. Well, is what I'm enjoying here, and what I've enjoyed is finding out a bit more about this app, for lack of a better term, this way to help gain focus for people.
Yes.
And one of the things I worked on is like I have notepads. I do things like some people use different things. I have separate notepads for everything I'm doing on my desk.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's part of your organizational strategy.
That's my organizational strategy. I have my week schedule. I have an overall schedule of major projects that are happening. I have a daily schedule, and then I have little notes off to the side as like, oh, I had a thought, and I write that thought down somewhere and I push it away so I can go back to work.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like, because my brain will jump suddenly, I'll be doing something and I'll look at something and all of a sudden my brain will say, hey, think about this. And I'll say, great idea. Write it down, push it away. And then I can look at it later when I'm focused, especially when I'm coding or when I'm debugging, because what happens when I'm coding or debugging is I'll be figuring something out and my brain will go, hey, that's a great idea to use somewhere else. Because for some reason, I'm always thinking, what other great idea can you do? So,
I have a question for you, because I also find writing things helps me in a certain way. When you write something down, when you actually muscle a pencil across paper, do you find you do it for certain kinds of things, or you remember certain kinds of things differently if you write them?
I do remember things, not necessarily certain kinds of things, but anything I take the effort to write down, it sticks a little bit better than if I put it into the computer. It's like I also have a notepad on my computer. Windows 11 did something great with the note app, where you can have multiple tabs open, and then if it crashes, they all still stay remembered even though you didn't save them. So I have several tabs for different things I'm doing, and it's like I get a note, I'll put it there on the computer sometimes, but if I write it on paper, I remember it better than if I wrote it on the computer.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you something revealing about me. I had one successful exit when we sold Centropolis, which was great. And I've had 2 startup failures, both around $3 million raises that did not end up turning into billion-dollar companies and all that, right?
Right.
Both times the companies failed. I had the same process, which is there's a chair that I have that sits underneath a window, sort of in my living room. I sat there with a pad of paper, like a legal pad, and a pencil, deliberately to write down, what did I learn? What did I think I did wrong? And there was something about writing it with pencil on paper that made it more real to me. Be like, remember these things. Steven, you probably have a predisposition to remake these mistakes as people do.
Yeah.
There was something about, I didn't want to dictate it into my phone. I didn't want to type it into my laptop. I wanted to write it, and I have both those pieces of paper and I refer back to them. And there's something about that graphite moving across the paper that was like, remember this.
Yeah. It becomes a little more permanent. And it also seems to be easier to pull that information up at a later point in time than try to remember where you put it in a computer, in the filing system in a computer. So
that is true.
I've done that for many years, and that's the way it's been working out. So at any rate, that being said, we're going to cut the YouTube stream, folks. Don't run away, Steven. Let me just terminate the YouTube, and we will be Thanks for everyone for showing up and greatly appreciate it. Oh, hang on a sec.
Yeah.
We have a last minute
Thanks for listening.
question. Oh, I hear that from, there are studies that show writing notes by hand works better than the brain. That is from one of our commenters.
Thank you, commenter.
All right. Let's terminate the YouTube stream. I just want to chat with you real briefly.